Welcome to On the Chain.
So they put out this here, the Q2 2023 XRP market reports live. Took a different approach this quarter, and they focused on the landmark court ruling, debunking misconceptions on Ripple's XRP holdings, because, Jeff, the internet has been just fraught with all kinds of bizarrities. I mean, the people don't even understand, you can't even read a case, but they focused on the victory from 2020 on to 2.5 years later, where Ripple's Chris Larson and Brad Garlinghouse vindicated. July 13th, court unequivocally ruled that XRP in of itself is not a security. XRP, along with BTC, now are the only two digital assets in the United States with that clarity, although the court's decision sets a key precedent that other markets participants can rely on. And Jeff, this is becoming really important, especially to Coinbase.
Vital.
It's just incredible. It's like now you have John Deaton representing, what is it, 4,000 or 5,000 now, maybe, Coinbase? Coinbase holders are people that are on Coinbase. So you got that same sort of ramp up where they're like, hey, they want to be represented.
They do.
I love this line right here. SEC's misguided campaign of regulation by enforcement has been exposed for what it is, a strategy of intimidation, misinformation, and furtherance of its own quest for political power. Man, that gloves are off, Jeff. Mr. Gensler's oft-repeated statement that all crypto tokens, except Bitcoin, are securities subject to the SEC's jurisdiction has now been firmly debunked. And what this has done is this has put Gary Gensler into the fetal position, crying like a little baby, crying and asking for mommy. He's just really been neutered. And the funny part about it is, Jeff, is he seems to have abandoned the whole let's go after crypto. And now he's focusing, and the SEC is starting to focus on AI. We didn't need your help in the digital token space, the digital asset space. We certainly don't need your help in the AI space. And there certainly is no precedent. There's nothing in, Jeff, and correct me if I'm wrong, since it's AI is so new, there's nothing.
Why would the SEC even dip their toe in the AI? It has nothing to do with it until one of these companies, starts selling off stock shares. Unless there's a reason, then why is he even dipping his toe over there? It's so this guy is just he's a control freak. The guy doesn't know what he's talking about, just like most of those unelected bureaucrats within this administration. There's a whole bunch of them that they don't know the numbers. They don't know the facts. They don't know what they're even there to represent. They've been appointed. They don't even know why, they're holding leadership positions. They're not qualified to hold leadership positions. I want a leader to be a leader. I want a leader to be knowledgeable. I want a leader to come and present fact, not fiction. And that's all these guys do with every step. And it's so disconcerting to see the direction that these unelected bureaucrats have decided to go in. And this one has been put in his place. And it's so good to see that. Yeah. But man, and now we're starting to see, like you brought up Coinbase, very important. And there's a great article we'll talk about in a little bit. The SEC has violated due process, and that there's a motion to dismiss the lawsuit from Coinbase. And we're going to see this over and over and over again. The zealot that's sitting in the SEC.
And quite honestly, I don't know there would have been the appetite to push hard on legislation. I know the red team was working on it.
True.
But this sort of seemed to cement everything. But I love what they talk about here. Number one, the first misconception, decision is a split decision. That's what we're hearing. Well, nobody understands, but sometimes it's security and sometimes it's not. It's like, well, you don't understand the idea of investment contract. You don't understand about how, when you're purchasing on an exchange, you don't know who you're purchasing it from. So there's so much that's lost on just like general concepts. But what's happened in the last 2.5 years is everybody in this space, everybody here on the OTC family have become experts in it. Now, you might not have cared about too much about this, but understanding the how to read something and understand what it means and understanding the Howey, the 4 prongs of the Howey test, that there's an investment contract, rely on the profit of others. And the fact is like it never even got to the 3rd or 4th prong because it's just the digital asset's never been in its of itself. And they also talk about the number 2, the decision says that XRP is a security in some settings and not in others. Not so. XRP itself is never a security. It's
Never.
it's how it, yeah. As the court said, XRP is a digital token, not of in of itself an investment contract, therefore not a security.
It's how it's
Just like
packaged.
the orange grove, the gold. Yeah, it's always how it's packaged up. Misconception 3: a share of the stock is always a security. So it makes no sense that a certain transactions of XRP are securities and other transactions are not. The existence of an investment contract, special type of security, separately defined by law, must be determined by the transaction by transaction basis. This is different from traditional share of stock, which under the law is always a security. So
Correct.
this is such a simple concept that no, even legal minds, legal scholars out there, people that are security lawyers have missed this, Jeff. And it's just bizarre because it really talks about and speaks to the dogma and the belief so much in a certain narrative that no matter what evidence surfaces, no matter what comes to light, you're just focused on that dogma. Like you can't change your mind. You're holding on to that tightly. And it just seems to be sort of ridiculous, especially the maxis have been can't handle this.
No. So you chip this. This is a cup. It says Segfredo on it. This is not a security. I did not buy this as an investment contract in Segafredo. However, I appreciate the value of this cup because it holds some roasted dark goodness, coffee, and it can hold any kind of coffee. I can put badass Yeti coffee in here. It doesn't have to be necessarily Segfredo. However, if I gave this to you with a promise of return, say, depending on how many of these cups you own, you're actually going to get a payout of our profit from the sale of coffee, then I'd be packaging this as a representation. This would then, that offer, could then be deemed a security, because depending on how many of these hold, will make a determination on how much of the profit you get from our coffee sales. But the cup itself, this cup is just a cup, just like XRP is just an XRP. However, just like XRP chip, if I said, hey, this cup is valuable to you, and I'll trade you this cup for a bag of coffee, and you'll say, hey, that's an awesome trade. Still not a security, by the way.
Yeah, it's like baseball cards, baseball cards, collectibles and stuff like that. But the oranges were it's never been ever since that Howey test, the actual instrument itself, to chinchillas, the whiskey, everything that John Deaton always kind of like brings home and talks an awful lot about. And for some reason, I don't know, people just having a tough time with it, Jeff. I don't know. They just pretty much they for whatever reason, they can't handle it. And I wanted to kind of like talk about this next. This is one of the most important things I think the Ripple's put out in a long time. It's like Misconception 5: the decision makes it impossible for Ripple to do business. Since the SEC filed the lawsuit in 2020, the vast majority of Ripple's customers and counterparties have been outside the U.S. All the expansion's been outside the U.S. So what have they really done? They forced. Ripple's just doing business because
elsewhere.
No U.S. Yeah, elsewhere. You're going to celebrate the fact that Ripple and everybody else, even Stu Alderody came out the other day and said, listen, he was in a podcast that Crypto Eddie had posted a little snippet from, and he basically said, look, regardless of this ruling, if you have a blockchain business, get out of the U.S. Until there's regulatory clarity, it's still muddy. It's smooth sailing for Ripple, but for everybody else, you're going to go through the same stuff. Look at Coinbase is going through.
Coinbase is going through a bunch of shit, and here, some of the issue, especially with Coinbase came to the table, right? You can argue, hey, maybe Ripple didn't come to the table to talk to the SEC, although they did, but you can't say the same thing with Coinbase. Coinbase is actually listed, and they have a stock. It's called Coin. They had to go to the SEC. They had to get approval for that. They had to share their entire outlook, their business plan. They had to show current business plus future business. They had to show their whole plan moving forward, which included, interest and everything they have packaged up over there. So for the SEC to come now and say you're doing something wrong, there's something wrong with that component of it, all in all, because they've already reviewed it. They've already given them the approval. They've given them their blessing. That's how they were able to start trading stock. It makes no sense. if the SEC could come out and say, hey, this was a big surprise to us, you hid all of this information from us, that's a whole different story, right? And it's so disingenuous to see what they're doing. And it's very obvious what they're doing by pushing all of this offshore. They're trying to disrupt the flow of this new financial asset. They're trying to disrupt any of the exchanges. They're not doing this to protect retail. They're doing this strictly as a power move, as a power grab to maintain for the old money, the old power hold. And they're trying to make way to allow for the banking infrastructure to own this space.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.